Hello and welcome back to another episode of Word Wednesday. I'm your host, Paige Goodyear, and as always, we have Mr. Bix Weir. How's it going, Bix?
Well, great, Paige. We missed you at Thanksgiving, but I'm sure you had a lot of fun cooking for families. I heard that's good on you for that. That's an excellent. What is it? A skill to learn for the future.
Thank you. Yes, it was my first Thanksgiving where I cooked pretty much the whole meal, and it went very well. So I was excited.
Nice.
I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you were able to be with some family, some loved ones, um, even though the state of the world is the state of the world right now.
I agree. And hey, good on everybody for making it this far and not long to go. I think we're going to get through this stuff. It's going to be crazy, but we're going to get through it.
Yes, yes. We are almost to 2021. I'm excited to see what this new year brings us and how we're going to pull ourselves out of the chaos that is going on right now. So, our word today is fiat currency. And our definition for fiat currency is inconvertible currency made legal tender by a government decree. It does not have any intrinsic value. So fiat is actually Latin for it shall be. So the government is simply decreeing that this is legal tender and can be used as a medium of exchange. So what makes it valuable is that people trust it, and it's a system pretty much completely based off of faith and confidence. So most modern paper currencies, such as the US dollar, are fiat currencies. And fiat currency actually gives banks, central banks, greater control over the economy because they can control how much currency is printed. So we do need to talk about one very important point before we move on, is the difference between currency and money. If you've noticed, I've only said currency thus far. So currency has 7 key properties: unit of account, medium of exchange, portability, durability, divisibility, and fungibility. So unit of account is a standard numerical unit of measurement of a market value of a good. So let's say the price of gas, that would be a unit of account. So medium of exchange would be the instrument or the system being used to facilitate the sale or purchase. So like the actual bill itself. And this is portable. You can put it in your pocket, you can fold it up. It's durable. If you get it wet, it's not going to crumble. It's divisible. I can make this into 4 quarters, and it's fungible. So $1 in my pocket is going to buy the same amount of goods as $1 in your pocket. So money also has all of these qualities, but it has a store of value over a long period of time and has a limited supply. So that is why we say fiat currency, because it is inconvertible to something like gold or silver. So the first time I actually understood this concept was at the Litecoin conference with the guys from the Wild West crypto show. And he held up $1 and he said, "This is absolutely no different than a piece of Monopoly money." I was like, well, why not? And it's because we give it value. When you're playing Monopoly, the money has value in that game because everyone has agreed that it's valuable for that specific thing. So we have done the same thing with the dollar bill because it's not backed by anything. So one of the dangers of fiat currency is that governments can and will and have print too much money, resulting in hyperinflation. So it wasn't always like this. Like I said earlier, the dollar used to be backed, and it was Nixon in 1971 took us off of the gold standard. So you used to be able to go into the bank and exchange your dollar for gold pieces, and now you can no longer do that because this says, "This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private." So this is tender for debt. It is debt based. There's nothing valuable about this right here. So Bix, can you talk a little bit about why we went off of the gold standard and who benefits from that and who is hurt in the long run?
Well, sure. And that was great introduction. there was one thing that is a little different. We couldn't actually cash in our bills for gold in 1970, for example. That got taken out in 1934 when they confiscated gold from America and said, hey, we'll take care of your gold. You guys just get the pieces of paper. So it was a pseudo gold standard that Nixon took us off. Only the bankers really had the power to hold gold and the U.S. Treasury. So very close, though, very close. But even that was unsustainable because of what you talked about. An unbacked fiat monetary system, what's going to happen? Human beings are always going to print themselves into oblivion. It has happened every time in the course of human history, and every time it has fallen back to a gold system because people are stupid. They're stupid and they're greedy, and they think every single problem can be fixed by printing money. And that's where we are today with our Federal Reserve System and our U.S. Treasury. And everybody in government says, we got a problem. Let's throw some money at it. Let's take away everybody's ability to earn money so that they rely on us for money now with this COVID stuff. We'll print the money. You guys just go on your merry way, sit at home, play your video games, and we'll pay you to do that. That's what's happening right now. And it's very scary because they have the money because they can just create it out of thin air.
Yeah, that is very scary. So has there ever been a fiat currency that has not gone to zero?
Not yet. All fiat currencies, the unbacked currency declared by the government, every time we go off the gold standard, it crashed. I think it's about 2,000 times that has happened in human history. Nobody knows the real count, but somewhere around there, every single time they print too much money or whatever they're using as the alternative to gold and silver, they make too much of it, and poof, the whole thing implodes and people lose their life savings if they're invested in that. Now, those who held gold and silver in the past, everybody held on to their gold and silver every time the government did something crazy like this. This time they didn't. And the reason they didn't is that it's no longer, it can be created with electronic blips, and the value can be controlled. The value in gold and silver can be controlled with computer programs. So they've done an amazing thing at pulling the wool over everybody's eyes. For the last 50 years, we've been off the pseudo gold standard, but it didn't fix the problem. And as we can tell today, they're printing money like it's going out of style. They tell us, I don't even know what the debt is anymore, and closing in on $30 trillion, but they printed a lot more behind the scenes and didn't tell anybody. So yes, we're at the end game of, and it's not the first time in history, but it's the first time that we're going to crash an unbacked fiat monetary system that is global. And that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's big. So in your opinion, is an economy that's tied to a commodity such as gold and silver more stable than an economy that is not tied to anything like ours and a lot of other economies around the world?
Well, historically, yeah, the stability of the currency they use, if it's tied to, or it's better to actually use the actual underlying commodity and not create things like U.S. dollars or these electronic blips. But historically, it has been shown that when you go off a gold standard, when you're on a gold standard, there's no inflation. It's because the amount of gold we mine every year increases 2 or 3% along with the population. Now, there are times when you have a little bit of inflation, like the gold rush in the 1850s, but nothing like we have today. And by the way, our government lies about inflation. If you ever try to buy a cup of coffee, and back in the day, it used to cost a nickel. Now it costs a little more than a nickel to buy a cup of coffee. That's inflation. They don't tell you it's there, but it is a creeping type of inflation that they don't tell you about. They just try to hide everything. That everything is more expensive in the grocery store, but they hide it. And that computers are less expensive now because of Moore's law. Moore's law says with computers, they go down in price over time, and the technology doubles every 3 to 5 years. That's great for that technology, but at the same time, they use those calculations in determining whether or not there's any inflation. So in the meantime, we don't make any more money, but at the same time, everything we buy is hyperinflated away from us. That's the place we're at now. And there is no way out of it unless you crash the whole system.
Yeah. So what are the consequences of fiat currency? And can you give us any examples where fiat currency has just obliterated an economy or a group of people, or it just
Sure.
didn't
Yeah.
work?
Well, historically, the ones I've studied goes back to like the 1800s, and there was a, what was it called? In France, they had a fiat system where they went off a gold standard. It imploded in 7 years. Usually, these things explode in 7 years. Germany, Weimar Republic, great example. They basically tried to pay for everything with newly printed money, and pretty soon it took a wheelbarrow to buy a loaf of bread, wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread. Zimbabwe, just recently in recent history, you can't buy a loaf of bread with a 1 billion Zimbabwe note. And I think they were making 100 trillion Zimbabwe notes, and you line them, it's basically worth toilet paper. That's where the US is headed. We control the prices right now with computers and derivatives and these commodity markets that are a complete fraud. And that's how we've been able to run this system for 50 years now. Usually these unbacked fiat systems crash within 7 to 10 years. And it almost did in 1980 after Nixon went off the gold standard in 71. But Alan Greenspan wrote computer programs to rig the markets that we've talked about many times. But what it does, it hides the inflation. So we have inflation all around us. It does cost, more than a nickel to buy a cup of coffee. We just don't know it because they hide everything with computer programs, and they rig markets, the gold and silver market, to keep the prices low, to basically disguise what they're really doing, which is printing infinity money behind the scenes.
So Mike Maloney, I'm sure you and other people have heard of him. He has a wonderful series on YouTube. Definitely go check him out for a more in-depth look in all of this. But in one of his videos, he stated, your true wealth is your time and freedom. Money is just a tool for trading your time. It's a container to store your economic energy until you're ready to deploy it. So Bix, what would you tell people keeping their wealth in fiat currency or in the banking system? What would your advice be to those people?
Well, obviously, you want to get out of the unbacked fiat system that they're printing like there's no tomorrow. The big risk lies in the banks right now. The banks have over leveraged their derivative portfolios to the tune of quadrillions of dollars, not hundreds of millions, not billions, not even trillions, but quadrillions of dollars, in order to keep this system intact, to make every little penny they can off every cent that they create out of thin air. That is unsustainable, and we almost saw it collapse in 2008, and we will see it collapse very soon. It could be this December with all the election stuff going on. It could be the beginning of next year. The thing that we do know is that the banking system absolutely needs trillions of dollars to be shoveled into them just to keep them afloat, whereas the people are getting nothing. As a matter of fact, the people are losing everything they have, as the banks and the governments want us to be at their beck and call. They want us to be at their mercy, so they're shutting down the small businesses, which employ 75% of the population of the United States. This is being done on purpose so that the socialists, the people who are promoting socialism, will get their way. That's how they win their war. This is a long-term game. If you destroy everybody's ability to earn money and take care of themselves and be a contributing part of society, then you have to turn to the government for handouts, and that's exactly what the socialists want. And that leads to communism, total dictatorial rule over us. It is horrific. Every single country that has turned in that direction has been destroyed within a matter of years. The United States is on the brink of going down that path. And I hope all you Democrats out there who support that kind of, free money printing for everybody, for giving college loans, giving modern monetary theory is the theory that we should just print and print and print and give everybody everything so that it evens the playing field for everybody. I think there is no time in history that has ever worked. As a matter of fact, socialism has caused more deaths than anything else in the world, even more than wars.
Yeah, they're wiping out the whole middle class. They're wiping out capitalism in America. So if you wipe that out, you wipe out the family businesses and the people who come here for that American dream. Who do you rely on? You have to rely on the government. Absolute power will corrupt absolutely. So we need to be careful where we steer this ship in the next year or two. But to bring it back to fiat currency, you can use your fiat currency and turn that into physical commodities like gold and silver that do have a store of value. Or you can turn the fiat into cryptocurrency, which is not linked to a central bank who can't print to infinity. So there are ways to use the current system to your advantage. And I would just like to remind everyone that if people lose faith in a nation's currency, it will no longer hold value. So people who say, well, the dollar is never going to die. One, look at history. Two, it will die once people lose faith in it and they see what a corrupt system this is. So for more information on physical commodities such as gold, silver, and cryptocurrency, head over to rotaruta.com and sign up for the free newsletter, or you can subscribe today to get all the latest information and how to get your money out of this corrupt system and gain true wealth, which is your time and your freedom.
Bravo. Well,
so I think we will wrap up there unless Bix has any last words to say.
I would say, hey, now is the time. If you want to save your bacon, you better get physical possession of silver and gold. I like silver a lot more than gold. And the good cryptocurrencies that are nobody's debt and they can't hyperinflate away. Make sure there's a fixed amount. Like Bitcoin you can only have 21 million. There's a reason for that. And the reason is in history has shown if you have unlimited amount of money that can be printed, people will do it. And there's no getting around that. And that's what's going on with our fiat money right now.
Yes. So get out of fiat, get into things that actually have a store of value. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another week of Word Wednesday. I can't wait to see you guys next week, and take care until then. Bye.